Welcome to Beyond the Pulpit, exploring the life and ministry of Walnut Creek Church downtown. Walnut Creek Church exists to glorify God by making authentic disciples of Jesus Christ who love and worship Him in all they do. Well, all right, welcome to Beyond the Pulpit. My name is Derek Wadley, and I'm joined by Luke Hookey.
Hey, everybody.
And Dan Rude.
Good morning, everyone.
And this last weekend, we jumped into Genesis 39, which is the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. And
a classic.
Even VeggieTales covered Joseph and Potiphar's wife, albeit slightly different than the way it plays out.
What vegetable was she? A strawberry?
I don't remember. I think maybe a cucumber. I think Larry might have been involved. So I don't
Larry
know.
the cucumber, yeah.
But
I can't say I've seen many VeggieTales.
I haven't watched very many, but I do remember that. But there's a lot to this story that it almost seems impossible that we're only spending 1 week in chapter 39. But there's a lot there. And so how was that process for you, Dan, getting ready?
Yeah, I made it through about 80% of my notes. And on Friday, I had a lot of content, and I was whittling it down. And I thought I would get through everything, but I only got through about 80%, which is okay.
A lot of on-the-fly editing on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how it works.
I know, that is how it works. And just a few details in the story that I think are just kind of interesting. In verse 1, it says, "Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt." And verse 1 of chapter 38, it says, "At that time, Judah left his brothers and settled near an Adullamite named Hira." And so what you don't see in the English is that there's a common word that connects verse 1 of chapter 38 and chapter 39, and it means to go down. That Judah went down and Joseph went down, and in the Old Testament, to go down to Egypt, Egypt is the symbol of death and slavery in the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a picture in some ways of hell. And
Exodus chapter 1.
Exodus,
there we go.
That's exactly right. And so when it says Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, you're supposed to pause there and go, "Oh no,
Yeah. No bueno.
This is bad." He's in the belly of the beast, and so it's an ominous thing. The dark clouds are rolling in. A covenant child of God, Joseph, son of Jacob, is in Egypt, and so that this is going to go bad. And even though he's going to be tempted, we're told 4 times that God is with him. And I love the truth that regardless of what you're going through, if life is really good or it's really terrible, if you're on Mount Sinai or you're down in Egypt, God's with his people.
That's right.
God is with his people. That bad circumstances are not, it's not a sign of God's absence in our life, that God is really with us. And Joseph, he's going to be tested to the max. He's going to be tested with sexual temptation that is, it's overwhelming. Joseph's 17, maybe 18. He's away from his family. He's been horribly mistreated by the covenant people of God, his brothers, the tribes of Israel. He's been treated absolutely horribly. He's sold as a slave by his family members, the Ishmaelites. Remember that's Ishmael, the son of Abraham. So these are his cousins. His distant cousins have sold him. His brothers have sold him. He is horribly mistreated, but God is with him. God is with him, and he has every opportunity to give in to Potiphar's wife's advances, and
in one sense, every reason.
He has every reason to.
Doesn't really, but
I know.
It's like you went through the list of excuses. You're like, boy, it'd be hard not to
give in,
justify myself with one of those.
I know, and the one that really was the one excuse that I think probably would have been in his head, like for sure, is like, if I don't do this, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah,
because he's a slave.
It's part of the culture.
And to say no to your slave master's wife, you're gonna be in trouble. And that's what actually happens. Like she has immense power over Joseph. And so if you don't keep her happy, she's going to do something bad to you, and she does. And so that would have just been another reason to
little power dynamic. There
is a power dynamic there. I mean, he's a slave. He's a Hebrew slave, a stud. I mean, he's looking really good.
Testosterone flowing.
I know. Jeez. And so this is I think this is the single greatest chapter in all the Bible on what it looks like to live with sexual integrity.
I mean, just integrity in general. I mean, the crux of the story is about like fleeing sexual like temptation and like staying with God, but it's like he had a tremendous amount of power, and power is a corrupting force in a lot of people's lives because of our sin, and then access to untold riches because of his master's position and what he was in charge of too. So this is self-control down to the core.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he's a young man, he's a young man. He's the picture of the coming Daniel, in Babylon.
That's right.
He's the man who was sold as a slave, and then he's going to rise to power, just like Daniel will eventually do. And something I was thinking about. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I was just reflecting this last week on the power of sex.
Yeah,
I mean, it really does have a unique ability to build relationships and destroy relationships. I mean, to build churches, to destroy churches, to build the kingdom, to destroy the work of God. I mean, it is so powerful, and just the ability to have self-control, to honor God. For a man to love one woman, for a woman to love one man, the entirety of their lives, and the blessing that flows from that. Oh my goodness! Who was the? This is probably dangerous because I'm just thinking of this right now. But who's the? Isn't there a? Is it a? It's not a senator in the House. I think there's in Texas. There was a man who was having an affair. Did you hear about this in Texas?
In the Texas, Congress, state Congress?
No, I don't think it's
federal.
National. And this woman, they were both married, and he was sleeping with this woman, and she actually lit herself on fire.
Oh, yes.
Committed suicide.
Yeah. It was his staffer. And I thought, what would possess someone? Yeah, the husband came out with the text messages and things. Yeah.
I mean, just the untold pain and sorrow that comes from breaking God's design for sex is just there are too many examples to go through.
I mean,
it's countless in history right now in the world. I mean, it's just overwhelming. And I think as Christians, we just need to totally embrace God's design. I mean, it is literally life-giving. I mean, it gives life to children, and it builds families, it builds cities, it builds churches. I mean, it's brilliant to the core. And so what we see here is Joseph's going to be tested. He's going to be tested to the core, and he's going to honor God. And something I didn't get into that much is when Potiphar's wife actually goes after him in verse 11 or verse 12. Verse 11 says, "Now one day he went into the house to do his work, and none of the household servants were there. She grabbed him," and that's very strong language there. She grabbed him by his garment, and the image is that she's pulling his garment off of him. She's like grabbing him, and said, "Sleep with me." But leaving his garment in her hand, he escaped and ran outside. So he flees.
Yep.
He flees. Now, what do we learn in the Bible about fleeing?
Well, that's a good question.
We are to flee temptation.
Flee temptation.
Flee from sin.
Yeah, it's like Joseph models what Paul later instructs us to do in 1 Corinthians 6, where Paul says, "Flee all sexual immorality." And in this case, Joseph is literally fleeing, like he's running out of the house, robe being torn off, ripped off, to escape the sexual temptation that's in front of him. And so I think a question even to think about is like, what does it mean to flee sexual temptation?
Totally.
What does that look like?
Yep.
Joseph's an example of like literally running away from it. Dan, I know of a guy, pastor in a different state, but he's a friend of ours that he shares a story about how his parents taught him this, and he was on the bus, I think for wrestling or something, and someone like had pornography and tried to show it to him, and you can correct me, I think this is right, he literally then ran off the bus.
While the bus was driving. I'm just kidding.
Jumped out the door.
But he was trying to
he ran.
Yeah, he ran.
And he called his dad. He was like,
that's right.
"You got to come pick me up here." They're looking at porn on the on the bus. Yeah,
and I think that was a good example of there are times where we literally must run away from things.
And that's just like something that's important about that story is that when that story took place, given the relative age of that guy and us, is that there weren't smartphones on the bus. Like it's actually way easier for that to be on the bus, and it's definitely on the bus.
Yeah. Totally.
It's true.
Totally. Yeah. So Joseph, he flees, and there's something about sexual temptation where every time we encounter sexual temptation, the Bible tells us to flee. Like sometimes you need to stand and fight.
Yeah.
But never with sexual temptation.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's interesting because the Bible says, take your stand. You got to stand and resist the devil. But the way you resist the devil, the way you resist sexual temptation is you run. You actually run.
Yeah.
Like you don't flirt with it. You don't mess around with it.
Yeah, Proverbs is at 5 or 6 where it says, what man, can walk across burning coals and not get burned? It's like the idea is that to stand and not to flee, you're just setting yourself up to more than likely to get torched by it.
You're going to get burned. Yeah. Yeah. And I think early in my life, I think in high school and as I was just getting older, maturing, walking with the Lord, I think I had this idea that, like a strong Christian should be able to kind of face sexual temptation and be okay. And that lasted like,
so that's why you
like an hour.
Yeah, that was like 1 hour. And
it makes so much more sense, Dan. High school makes so much more sense to me. Why? I'm joking.
No, but it's like, you think, oh yeah, you Christians, you really should be able to like kind of face the temptation. And
you're not strong enough.
But really the Bible says that wisdom is you just flee. In Proverbs it says, don't go down the door, or don't go near the door of her house.
Right. Proverbs 7.
You don't screw around with that. You don't mess around with it. You have to flee. You have to run.
Don't engage with the flirting.
Yeah, I know. And so there is something about the Christian life where if we're going to honor God, we want to do what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6, where he says, "Don't you know that you were bought with a price? Therefore, honor God with your body." And then he says, "Don't you know that your body is a temple of the living God?" And therefore, honor God with your body. That's the
Holy
thrust.
Spirit who's in you, whom you have from God.
You have from God. And there is something about the life of sexual integrity where there has to be an edge in our souls.
Yeah.
Like if we're casual about sexual temptation, if we flirt with sexual temptation, we're going to fall.
I'm going to fall.
We're going to fall. And there has to be an edge, a strength, a conviction in our souls, a clarity about what it means to honor God with our bodies. And so that means, like, as Christian men and women, we ought not be flirting with inappropriate movies. I sometimes I hear about movies people are watching or TV shows that people are watching, and I'm not saying you can never ever watch a movie that has some hint of inappropriate an inappropriate scene. I'm not trying to
Angel
regulate.
has not yet made enough movies.
What's that?
Angel Studios has not yet made enough movies to replace Netflix.
Yeah, but I sometimes I hear about it and I just think, man, you're just exposing yourself to some very graphic images. And evil images. And so again, we're not trying to like regulate what everybody watches, but there has to be an edge that like there is a battle that we're in.
Was it? I think it was Martin Luther said, "You can't control the birds that fly over your head, but you can control what birds build a nest in your hair."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, and he had a good head of hair for a nest, or a lack of hair.
That's right.
But it's like just to exist in the world and in the culture, it's like there's temptation left and right all over the place. The music that plays at restaurants that you choose to go, that you go to, it's like, or what's passed is like family friendly. Just the signs on the street or the billboards, anything like that. There's temptation everywhere, and we can't control everything. We just can't. But we can be self-controlled enough to not let these ideas take root in our minds and in our hearts.
And I think too, like to your point, like we can't control everything, certainly. But I do think we should be careful not to let that become a justification for letting certain things into our homes.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
And I think that's where that is I can't control what's always on the TV. Well, yeah. So maybe you shouldn't watch it, or you shouldn't watch that station or that, whatever. So I do think there's something there too. Like we can't control, like, you're in the grocery store and someone's wearing provocative clothes. You can't control that situation. You can,
even just where we're at as a church, walking around the East Village, it's just full of all sorts of stuff.
But I think we want to be, vigilant about particularly our own homes and what's coming into our own eyes from, all the smartphone and technology that we have, which I think is, you ask the question, like, what is the idea of like, what does fleeing look like today? Because, in Joseph's day or in situation, it's very much like run away. But even like in our culture now with, we would be speaking to having an edge, like we would be dumb to not be aware of the fact that smartphones, tablets, computers, like porn and sexual immorality, it's right around the corner all the time. And as was it Josh McDowell said, it's like, it's not a matter of like if but when, and it's just one click away. You're one click away in many cases from not just seeing something and then you have the opportunity to make a decision and choice to like flee from that thing, but you're one click away from like just being caught up into it, a life of harm and pain.
Certainly.
And so I think there are some situations where like fleeing, it's like, it may mean like you don't have a smartphone, or it may mean like you reduce the certain types of technology that you're using in certain contexts.
Right. You don't have a Netflix subscription.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so there's a lot of like practical things, and people have to work that stuff out in their own life and before the Lord. But I think to myself, like, it's worth it. It's worth it. Sometimes we're like, well, I can't give this up because, like, how am I going to connect with the world? It's like, you'll be okay. It'll be fine. There's better ways to connect with the world.
You're going to be all right.
Or whatever.
You're going to be all right. So how do we talk to our kids about this? This is I think this is a big question that a lot of parents are wrestling with. Like, how do you talk to your kids about sex? Someone in the church, they said, "Hey Dan, could I have you come over to my house and just talk to my kids about sex?" We don't know how to talk to our kids about sex. Could you come do this? And I said,
Dan said, sure.
I said, no, you can do that. You need to do that as parents.
You need to do it, yeah.
And so just a few thoughts on how to talk to your kids about sex and sexual temptation. I would say number one, as parents, you need to see yourself as as responsible for talking to your kids about sex. The primary educator about sex. And there's a philosophy that says, well, if we talk about sex, that's going to like kind of make our kids start interested. Then they're going to be interested in sex, and we don't want it. If we don't talk about sex ever, then our kids will never be interested in sex.
And what happened is my parents didn't talk about sex, and I was really interested in it.
Yeah, I was still quite interested.
So it's just puberty hit. It's just acknowledging the reality that your kids are going to be interested in sex, and so the question is, where do you want them to get the information? That's they're going to learn about sex, maybe from their friends or from social media or from teammates or school or TV shows. They're going to learn.
That's right.
They're going to learn about sex.
TV, man.
And so I think number one, you just own that responsibility. And it's a little bit awkward. It can be a little bit awkward talking to your kids about sex at times, but that's where the conversation needs to happen with mom and dad and their kids.
And can I add I think something to help with the awkwardness? The sooner you do it, and the more regular you talk about it, like it's not a one and done, which is probably another point, but the less awkward it is.
Totally.
So if you wait until they're like
25. Dad, I've been married for 40 years.
I'm just somewhat familiar with the concept.
Just wanted to let you know about something called sex. No, but if you're like, and with the appropriate amount of detail and things as they're younger to different ages, but the more you just have it as a part of your conversation, the less awkward it's going to feel. And I think we need to remember something. I think it's like the plan of like Satan to make it feel awkward and to make it feel kind of like bad and weird so that we don't talk about it. So like where the education comes is from some other source that is actually going to corrupt and harm our kids in their understanding of sexuality. So,
That's good. That's good. And so I think parents just need to own that responsibility. And when should you start talking to your kids? How old? I don't know. We started talking to our kids about sex. I don't know.
Really young.
We use 5, 6, 7 years old.
We've used like different resources and materials, books to help you.
Yeah, because they're going to learn, and obviously it's age. You want to be age appropriate.
Right. Yes,
but it's they're going to learn, and you want your kids to think, oh, we can talk to our parents about sex. So on that responsibility, I'd say number 2 is present a positive view of sex,
which is when they're young.
When they're young,
especially,
and help your kids understand the beauty and the glory of sex. What is God's design? Like, what's the purpose of it? Because I think there's a big lie that Christians are anti-sex. The Bible is anti-sex. That the Bible somehow says that sex is icky, evil, gross, shameful. It's like no. That's not what the Bible does at all. The Bible begins with a man and a woman naked in paradise, singing about having sex. That's Adam and Eve. And so the Bible has a glorious view of sex. And I think that's when you talk to your kids about sex, you want to talk to them and present the biblical view that is glorious, that it is good. It is a good gift between one man and one woman for one lifetime in marriage. That is the image. And it's a gift because God lets people who have been created in his image join him in creating more image bearers through sex, procreation.
That's right.
It's bonding two people together for one lifetime. Our bodies are bonding through sex so that we stay together,
super glued together,
and pleasure. That it's a pleasurable thing. It's something to be enjoyed between a husband and a wife who have given themselves to each other for life, and that's a glorious thing. It's a glorious thing. And so you want to present a very positive view. Second, or third, you need to warn your kids about the dangers of sex. It is
just like
so
the
deadly.
dangers of fire.
Yeah, so that's what I often will ask my kids: is sex good or bad? And they go, Dad, it's like fire. Sex is like fire, and it's good in one context and deadly in another. And so just talk to them about it. Warn them. Warn them. A little practical thing too. This is a small thing, but as they get phones, all I don't know if I should share this or not, but all the Rudes, we have the same code on our phone to get in. We all have the same code. So it's like, what that means is my wife can get on my phone at any time. I can get on her phone at any time. My kids can get on my phone at any time. I can get on their phone at any time. So there's nothing that's off limits. And so we can check, and we do check. We do check. And And we're smart about how we check. We try to like learn how does this all work, So
Yeah, you don't like check at the same time every time, and then you tell your kids, "Oh, phone check."
Yeah.
It's like I just randomly take their phones and look at them.
Yeah, that's right. And if you don't have a good relationship with your kids, and you've never talked to them about sex, and you just randomly take their phone, it's going to be weird.
At some point, we should just get into like the technology.
Yeah,
because I think there's some good ways to think about how do you manage phones and those things.
Totally,
as your kids get older.
Yeah, because that's the number one danger for sexual sin. I think probably number one is just through the phone.
Oh man,
it's through your phone, and just even warning your kids and talking to your kids, like and monitoring your kids, like the idea of allowing a 15-year-old boy to be in his room with his phone by himself for an hour
don't happen in our house.
Yeah, that's something that's probably not very wise. And I think it's good to tell your kids, like, this is the number one. It might be the greatest danger to your soul.
Seriously.
And so that's why you can't do that. So
yeah, which there's the whole conversation there that'd be good to get into. One thing that'd be helpful, that's been helpful for us in having regular conversations about sex is just reading the Bible.
Amen. Yes.
And particularly, we've had our kids for years read like the proverb of the day. And when you read the proverb of the day, you have at least 3 days a month from Proverbs 5, 6, and 7, and more, but at least 3, where opportunities where you can have those conversations. And so we've used that many times to have that conversation. And and Proverbs 5 hits on partly on the glories of sex. Let your wife's breast satisfy you. Or be intoxicated. So the pleasure aspect of sex, but then also you have the clearly the dangerous aspects of sex, the warnings there, and so those are opportunities. Just as you're reading through the Bible together, it's like, man, there's no shortage of opportunities to talk about sex. So that's been just a helpful thing that you're like, it naturally can bring up the conversation.
Totally.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, number one, own the responsibility to talk to your kids about sex. I think you can start pretty young, age appropriate, to present a glorious picture of sex, the biblical view of sex. Number 3, warn them about it, and look at them and talk with them and sit together and, go through the proverb of the day, or go through, there's a million passages.
And I would add to that 4th one, keep talking.
Yeah. Keep talking.
Don't let it be a one-done conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more you have those conversations, I do think it can feel a little bit awkward at times, but it's like the more you talk about it, the more regular it becomes. Like, I think the more natural it is.
And I think the long term is our kids will appreciate it.
Amen.
They'll be thankful.
Amen.